Welcome to Making Space For, the podcast where we embark on a journey to simplify, organize, and prioritize our lives. I'm your host, Paige Rabin, and each episode will explore the art of intentional living, helping you make room for what truly matters. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, it's easy to find ourselves surrounded by things that don't contribute to our happiness or well-being. Making Space For is your guide to decluttering not just your physical space, but also your mind and soul. We'll dive into practical tips on downsizing, right-sizing, and the transformative power of letting go. Whether you're starting a cluttered closet, pondering legacy planning, or seeking the elusive balance between work and self-care, this podcast is your sanctuary for inspiration and actionable insights. Join us as we feature experts, share personal stories, and explore the profound impact of intentional living. Together, we'll navigate the journey towards a simpler, more fulfilling life. One where you have more of what matters and less of what doesn't. So are you ready to make space for the life you've always wanted? Let's dive in. This is Making Space For. Well, before we dive into today's episode, a quick shout out to our flagship company, A Move Handled with Care. As Denver Metro's premier senior and specialty move management expert since 2007, we've mastered the art of downsizing, right-sizing, organizing, and every step in between. From packing and moving to unpacking and staging, our experienced staff represent all stages of life, offering a compassionate touch to what matters most to you. So, if you're looking to make a seamless transition while keeping what truly matters in focus, trust A Move Handled with Care. Visit us at amovehandledwithcare.com or on Facebook or LinkedIn to discover the difference. Let's continue making space for the life you deserve. Welcome to this episode of the Making Space For podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our expert guide for today's discussion, Rhonda Basey. With over 3 decades of experience navigating the real estate landscape in the greater Denver metro area, Rhonda brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. But what sets Rhonda apart is her invaluable knowledge of real estate fraud, prevention, and protection, particularly for the senior population. With a wealth of expertise in identifying scams and safeguarding against fraud, Rhonda ensures her clients navigate the market safely and securely. Join us today as Rhonda shares her insights and expertise, offering invaluable guidance on how to navigate the market safely and securely. This is Making Space For, Understanding Real Estate Scams. Well, thank you so much today, Rhonda, for joining us. I'm super interested in this topic that you're going to bring to us and our listeners today. While you are a senior real estate specialist and a realtor at heart, you also have some really amazing content and interest in this kind of scams area. And so I just would love to have you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got into this industry, and what you love most about your field.
Well, thank you so much, Paige, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my passion about seniors in general, their special, unique needs in real estate. And I think that it's important that we protect our seniors and educate both the seniors and maybe their adult children how to protect themselves against what is out there to get them. Unfortunately, there are
Yeah.
there are a lot of frauds and scams that we really need to pay attention to.
Yeah. So how did you get into real estate? How'd you get into this industry as a whole?
Well, 1989, I came home for summer in college and got a part-time job at a builder. At the time, it was Park Homes, and I just fell in love with homes and building and got into sales with that builder and realized that I got into it for the construction and the love of home building and design and just stayed in it for the love of people. I just really enjoy the process of making people's dreams come true. The excitement about finding your space to call home, your sanctuary, and then helping sellers find people that can jump into their home and make it their space and love that house just as much as they did. So that's very rewarding for me.
Great. And when you and I kind of met and you were telling me a little bit about some of this initiative when it comes to scams, you're with Douglas County Sheriff's Department, which I think is an amazing collaboration and also kind of shows, like your level of dedication to this initiative. And so tell us a little bit about your participation with them and kind of how this came to be this like educational space.
Oh, Thank you for letting me talk about it. I do have an affinity for our local law enforcement. So, number of years ago, I started a program specifically for the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. And we really like to offer them special services and really cater to them. In that journey, I met Deputy Ryan Faulkner, who has recently become the senior resource deputy for the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. He's the liaison between law enforcement and the senior community. He is somewhat of a local celebrity around the senior world. He's just an amazing person, cares so much about our seniors. And he's the one that really began the senior scam prevention workshop program. And he and I were just talking one day, and he asked me a question about title fraud. And that kind of began the relationship between us, where I now get to kind of be part of his, he calls it his scam team. So I'm the real estate specific representative when it comes to giving those senior scam prevention in the realm of real estate.
Okay.
That's where we began, and now I'm really just taking that portion, which for Ryan is within his sphere of people, but now I'm taking it to senior centers, to nursing homes, to, well, not to nursing homes specifically, but senior living
Yeah.
communities, and just sharing the information. Also, really starting to grab the attention of the older adults who have aging parents, because I think it's very important for those people. Generally speaking, they are wanting to look out for their parents, and can be a key set of eyes and ears for those
Sure.
seniors.
And I know that this information isn't unique to just seniors. This isn't something that, these frauds kind of live no matter buying or selling or however this may appear in real estate as a whole. But there's a reason why, you kind of target the seniors in the fact of like they're a little bit more susceptible to this. And so maybe describe, you had some good talking points as to why why are seniors typically a target of these type of scams?
Well, um, seniors are very trusting. They like to help. They like to listen to people. They are from a generation, I believe, where they have a natural instinct to give everyone respect and attention. And if someone calls them on the telephone with some kind of an idea, or are being told over the telephone that they've done something wrong and they better get out their checkbook,
Sure.
they feel a sense of obligation to make it right.
Yeah.
They want to do the right thing,
Mhm.
to be cooperative. I think that sometimes they're a little apprehensive about telling someone, no, I don't trust this situation. That makes them feel uncomfortable. So they can be coerced into doing something that is harmful to them. And lastly, seniors are people that have retirement accounts. They have a lot of equity in their homes. So unfortunately, that makes them targets to the fraudsters and scamsters out there who are searching for someone to con out of their money.
Yeah. What are in your experience of kind of dealing with this, what are your top maybe like two or three scams that we can kind of like, we're not going to get deep dive into these by any means, but like what are the top two or three that you feel like are the most prevalent or the most scary, whatever those top, top
Mhm.
ones are for you? What would those be?
Well, I actually personally have been involved in a couple of vacant land scams in the
Mm,
last year, which can also cross over into vacant home scams.
mm,
These fraudsters search obituaries. They look for families that might have a vacant estate home, or maybe someone that has an out of state address because they're snowbirds and they kind of live here
yeah.
6 months out of the year and live somewhere else 6 months out of the year. So vacant homes and land scams, I believe, are something to take seriously. I also have heard of foreclosure and mortgage relief scams. which
Okay.
is unfortunate. Once again, preying on people who need the funds, need some money, need some
Yeah.
extra help. And so if they see the carrot dangling there, it's often easy for them to just be manipulated into um, handing over the title to their house or selling their house out from underneath them.
Hmm.
And lastly, I really hate to say it, but there are external threats like these people who are doing the land scams and calling people out of the telephone book. But some family members are even, unfortunately, it can be someone that takes advantage of the generosity and the love of a family member that maybe has a
Sure.
lot of money and some equity in their house. And so family and very close network caregivers need to be chosen carefully. And
Sure.
yeah, that's that. The seniors always need to be aware of the people that they're surrounding themselves with, that they really do have the best interest of the senior at heart.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you kind of mentioned that internal and external threat. I would say that's probably with any scam, anything that you see is, making sure where you're kind of seeing those threats from. And so, just even as an individual myself, what are some red flags? Like, how does one see these things coming? Or, what are the top trends of how these fraudsters are getting away with this sort of thing?
Well, when it comes to the external threats, uh, many times, if it's a vacant land or vacant home scam, you won't know it until it's done, really, because they are acting in the background. A lot of times, forgery is involved. Um, they are imposters trying to act like the seller or the owner of a property, and many times you won't be able to foresee that. Maybe we can talk later. There are some stops in place, though, on a county level that will help you be able to be aware of anything if it's happened behind your back. The foreclosure and mortgage relief scams. The best advice I can give anyone is be cautiously suspicious. You don't have to be rude, but ask questions. Don't ever, I like to use the expression, don't feel rushed, don't feel hushed. If you feel
Mm,
rushed by someone who's calling you to convince you you need to hand over the deed of your property to them so that they can help you get out of a jam, start asking questions.
sure.
These are not decisions to be made quickly or lightly. If you feel like you need to go talk to your family members about it, tell that person on the phone, I'm going to need to call you back. Don't feel that that's rude. It's okay. If they are truly there to help you, they will not be offended by saying, I need to go talk to my family. I can't talk about this right now. Hang up, call your own mortgage company back, or call someone that you feel comfortable with helping you walk through the rest of the situation. And don't be hushed. Don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like, gosh, I don't want to seem like I got conned.
Yeah,
And do share things with your family, your trusted advisors. That's important to, and friends, even, because you might save someone else the hassle. If you got a
sure.
weird phone call and you were successful in not being conned, share that with someone else who might be able to learn from that.
Well, it's
um,
interesting, we didn't talk about this before, but it just, as you're talking, it's bringing up kind of almost like a visceral reaction to me. And the fact that, like, one of the big things right now that everyone's talking about is AI, and how
yes.
AI is going to come in and it's going to change the way that scammers scam and things like that. And I really liked what you said about don't be rushed and don't be hushed, because that is a sense of a feeling that I get, even when you're not dealing with a real estate situation. Even talking to the other day, I was talking to an insurance person on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, can I get your name and number? Can I call you back? And they're
Yes.
very quick to tell you. And I don't think it was a scam, but they're very quick to tell you, no, 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 we'll call you back. I'm like, no, no, I've called people for 4 days and this information still isn't done. And so
Mm-hmm.
kind of giving you that empowerment to ask questions, get the information that you need, no matter what the field is. But I guess kind of going back to that AI of like how we might be getting text messages and emails and phone calls and have you seen this already in kind of this space, unfortunately?
Yes, unfortunately, I have. It's within the real estate world. In fact, it was just a couple of months ago. I received a it was a voicemail. It went straight to voicemail, and unfortunately, this was someone, another real estate agent within Denver, made an enemy, and that enemy grabbed snippets of his voice,
Oh
and
gosh.
using his voice, what sounded like his voice,
Right.
made a recording that was phenomenally offensive, and then sent that recording out to 900 other realtors in the state of Colorado.
Wow.
So I haven't seen it, in the senior world, but I've seen it in
Hmm.
my own real estate world. That yes, all it takes, I believe, from listening to the sheriff's department, is like 6 words. They need to
Wow.
have your voice say 6 different words, and then they can literally formulate a conversation that sounds like you're talking
That's
to the
crazy
person
to
you think
me.
you're talking to.
Ugh.
So it is already starting, and um, so it's another reason to take your time. Take
Right.
your time. Don't
Ask
feel rushed.
questions. And if
Ask
somebody's not
questions,
allowing
call
you,
back.
and yeah, in any discipline, I mean, I was taught from a previous employer several years ago, like one of the best things is to not say, "Do you have any questions?" The
Yeah,
question should be, "What questions can I answer for you?" Because
right.
it, first of all, it tricks the person's brain to go, instead of saying, "Do you have any questions?" The answer is no. What you're doing is
Hmm.
you're triggering the brain to think through a catalog of, well, what questions might I have? And sometimes there is a
Hmm.
question there that if they're doing that catalog, they're thinking of it. And so
Hmm.
I try very hard when I talk to my customers and our clients is, what questions can I answer for you? Because I speak fast, I tell you a lot of
Hmm.
information. And so I want to give you the space. And if somebody is not
Hmm.
giving you the space, I would definitely say that as a red flag. If
Yes,
somebody doesn't want to go over their contract, why are they not wanting to go over their contract? If somebody is
right.
not going over their pricing, why are they not going over their pricing?
Hmm.
And when you have, I feel like there is a level of trust, I mean, to your field and to ours. You have to build, I mean, we are doing something very personal.
Yes,
As a move management team, we're coming into their home, we're touching their things, they're allowing us
right.
into their personal space. And so creating that sense of trust is super important. So I feel like for people like you and I, this becomes almost, second
Hmm.
nature. But for those that aren't maybe as, you know, this isn't their space and they're not used to that and they're like, okay, just make a
Hmm.
decision and move on. This isn't a group of people that makes decisions quickly. The
Hmm.
last time they moved may have been, 35, 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
so this is a huge decision for them. And so opening up that space for questions. And I really
Hmm.
like your little tagline there. That's a good one. Don't be rushed and don't be hushed. It's a really good thing to empower yourself when you're kind of picking people.
Yeah.
So I guess what are some of the ways that you can protect yourself? Like what are some ways, you've kind of told us some issues that might be outlying, some like, kind of signs to look for, but what can
Mhm.
people do to kind of just protect themselves in this way?
Um, the best resource I have found regarding title fraud is your local county records office. The Douglas County is where I live, and Douglas County Sheriff's Department is where I really focus with my presentations. But Douglas County Recording Office has a free fraud alert system.
Hmm.
And you just go online, you type in your name. You do need to log in, create an account on the, and this is not the assessor's office, this is the records office.
Mm-hmm.
So you put in your name, first and last name, and any AKAs, everyone in the household too. So if there's husband and spouse, husband, wife, partners in owning a home, you put in both names and an email address. And then anytime there's a trigger at the county in the form of a recorded warranty deed that might convey property from your name, say, to someone else's name
Okay.
because someone's been in the background trying to steal your property, or even just putting a lien on your property, you will
Mm.
get notification in an email. And
Hmm.
that is the exact same service that you see the late night infomercials for home
Hmm.
title lock. That is, I wouldn't necessarily call it a scam, but they're certainly selling you a service for a fee that is completely unnecessary. You
Mm.
do not need to buy extra or special title insurance. First of all, when you purchased your property, whether it be 30, 40, 50 years ago, you had a title policy probably when you
Yeah.
bought your property. And that counts for land or houses. And that should cover you through your entire ownership. Secondarily, signing up for those the fraud alerts will do exactly what the home title lock wants to sell you, and that is just alert you something has happened. And
Hmm.
at that point, then you can start calling professionals and getting people involved to undo something that has been done nefariously. Unfortunately, it's usually buyers that are the losers in those cases. Sellers are usually not harmed. So the infomercials that scare you into thinking your home could have already been sold out from underneath you is disingenuous, and I cringe when I watch it because it scares people into spending the $200 a year or whatever it is they want, when you really can have this service for free through your county. Arapahoe County does it. All the major Metro Denver counties do it. Elbert is just about there. So even though they're a rural county, they are probably by the end of this year, they will have that service as well. So I think that that's one of the major things that people can do right off the bat.
And if
If you
you sign up to that, is there a way, I'm just asking because I haven't looked myself, but is there a way that you can also have that sent to like an adult daughter, or is it just sent to you? I'm just thinking of the instance where, maybe the daughter's left with the home, mom and dad are now in a senior living community or something like that. Is there a
Mhm.
way that you can also allocate maybe next of kin in that way, or is it just for you personally?
That is an excellent question. I am only going to answer by my assumption that you could add
Okay.
multiple email addresses. But now I'm going to be calling the records office and
Yeah,
asking that
I'm just
specific
thinking about so
question.
many, I mean, so many people, that we're moving sometimes quickly. There's been an
Mhm.
injury, an accident, they can no longer go back to the home.
Right.
Maybe they're not in a rush to sell the property, but now it's
Yeah.
sitting vacant and now it's
Mhm.
sitting. And so how does that create a sense of anxiety, I'm sure, for the family?
Mhm.
And then I guess the other question is it when you go in and sign up, I suppose, is there a way that it attracts you to your title? Or is it just it knows your name and it matches your title that's on record? Is that kind of how that works?
It knows your name. So if your home is already on record
Hmm.
under either your name or say a trust account's name, when you log on to the fraud alert, you plug in whatever, all permutations of your name or your estate,
Hmm.
put every name that could be associated with your address. And if something gets recorded at the county level, the county doesn't decide whether this looks legitimate or
Sure.
not. They just make the recordation. And
Yep.
so when that paperwork happens, it gets published on the
Yeah, kind of like
county's
a
website.
credit report. It doesn't say that anything happened. It just may say there's been activity on your credit.
Mhm.
And then
Yep,
that's up to you to know, well, yeah, I just applied for a credit card, or yes, I was
exactly.
looking at buying,
Yep.
a new vehicle, or
I just got a
it
second mortgage.
yeah.
And
So
so
if you
it
did
makes sense that
something
there's
that
a
makes
name.
sense, you're going to
Yeah,
put two and two together and know that that's legit. If you
right.
didn't do anything, it's like, those emails that say, if this isn't true, go ahead and disregard kind of thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that makes a lot of sense. Um, so I guess I'm looking at some other things that we kind of discussed before, and one of the big things is like the title for our podcast and kind of um, this is an educational empowerment part. I think a little bit of our podcast, and
Mhm.
it's making space for. So how does knowledge about these type of things, by engaging, ethical realtors and things like that, how does that create space for people to feel empowered or safe in this space?
I think that it makes space for, just like you said, that comfort level. I'm prepared. I'm
Mhm.
prepared for whatever's going to happen. And that's what I like making space for with my clients, is that comfort level of I have my property in an estate plan. It's not going to go to probate. I know that my children are going to be able to take over for me, whether it's through a power of attorney or they are on the title. I think that just takes away the worry about what's going to happen
Right.
when I go, or if something happens that just incapacitates someone
Mm-hmm.
where they're no longer able to live in their home, but want to make sure that everything is set up per their plan. And not, I think that some people, and this is one of the fun parts of my job, is educating them to the fact that what is going to happen to you. Many people don't want to think about what's
Right.
going to happen at the end. There's many people in denial, and I think that you are empowered when you face it and recognize it and take the reins and make sure that what your wishes are now are going to come to fruition because you have a plan in place, whether that be an estate plan, whether that be I've already downsized with someone like your company where you've already formulated what is your legacy, that what are really important things to you. I just actually got back. My parents moved out of state, which is one of the reasons that I am now going down this senior journey. Last year, I got to go through the process of downsizing with my parents. They were in control. They were in charge of what they kept, what they wanted to donate, and what they were able to let go of. They were able to tell me, we don't want this anymore. Do you want it? Some things I said yes, and some things I said no.
You're the one percenter who said yes to something. We talk about that all the time. It's like, ask your family if they want something, but be prepared for the answer no.
Yeah, yeah, be prepared. That's right. And if they say no, if you were willing to get rid of it
Right.
and they are not wanting to keep it, then log it somewhere in your memory, write about it. I
Right.
happen to love artifacts.com. I think that that's a wonderful tool,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be able to log the things that you're willing to let go of, but you associate the memory and the sentiment with it. So those types of things, I think that preparation, forethought, making sure that you feel comfortable that it's already going to be difficult enough when you pass or when you're not there anymore. If it's a
Yeah.
mental dementia or Alzheimer's or something that takes you away mentally, you having that confidence to know I'm not going to burden my children with the stuff too, or the house, or
Mm-hmm.
how to handle things. I've already laid it all out for you. And
Right.
I think that that is empowering.
Yeah, and I've talked to several different people, in this podcast and just in life in general, and we talk about this idea of like the ostrich mindset of I'm just going
Yes.
to put my head in the sand and I'm going to pretend it doesn't happen, and
Mm-hmm.
this is where we want to give people information and like that sense of empowerment that if you make the decision and then when you make it once, you've already set yourself up, right? It's like when we downsize and you're sorting through things, if you make the decision on the first time you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to behoove you in the long term because you're not
Yeah.
having to look at that thing twice or three times and you just moved it to a different pile. It's like I've made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, like for fraud and all that sort of thing, it's being aware of it. It's knowing what your plan is. It's seeking. Everybody knows. We say that all the time. Everybody knows 10 real estate agents, if not more, in their life. But pick the one you like, right? Pick the one who's going to
Mm-hmm.
set you up for success, who has the right skill set for you, who understands what you're looking for and your long-term goals, and you've already made the decision, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
kids and everybody else doesn't have to join in that with you, that you were empowered. And I'm so glad for your parents that they were able to do that as well. My parents, unfortunately, whether they like it or not, they have to make those decisions very young because they have a daughter who's in the business. And so I always want to make sure that I'm prepared. So when we downsize, we downsize.
Yeah.
And things like that. They're snowbirding right now, having a good time
Mm-hmm.
snowbirding. But yeah, if we're gonna touch it once and I'm gonna tell you I don't want it, and then we can't hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm. And then going over these are the things that I did choose to keep.
Yeah.
These are my legacy items.
Yep.
So this is important to me, family, that if you don't want it, then it gets willed to a museum, or that it continues a life of its own, going through even the family safe or the jewelry box, or
Yeah,
those specific things that by sharing as an elder to your family what your wishes and thoughts and expectations are for things, when you're gone, they'll at least know what you wanted done with those
absolutely.
things. Whether they honor it or not, you'll at least feel like you've given them permission to let go of it.
Hmm.
Or is this really is important? And I think that this should stay either in the family. And if you don't want it, go find another branch of the family that it does mean something to,
Yeah.
because the lineage includes them. So I
Sure.
think that
Well,
those
I
conversations
love
are
this
good.
too because, with aging parents, I mean, Sierra and I used to talk all the time that like we used to always think that our customer base was just seniors.
Mm-hmm.
But who's our client is everyone, because every one
Mm-hmm.
of us is going to move at some point.
Yes.
Every one of us is going to have a life change that transitions us. Every one of us is going to have an aging parent. And so, what I like about this is there are so many things that as I meet professionals like yourself and others, you are empowering the next generation to feel
Mm-hmm.
like, well, sheesh, I didn't know that there was all these different frauds. And if my parents' house is left vacant, like I probably should know what's happening. I
Mm-hmm.
probably should go on to this fraud protection. And it's a free service, things like that. Like I should
Mm-hmm.
probably know about these things because I'm not ready to make a decision on my mom's property, but at
Mm-hmm.
least now I know that I'm protecting her against fraud or I'm protecting her
Yes.
estate. And so these
Make
are just
make friends with
great.
your parents' neighbors.
Yes.
Your parents' friends. You can
Yeah.
call on them too if they have neighbors that might, if the house, the house is going to be empty for a little while. Make sure that you befriend several neighbors so you're spreading out the request over multiple people. But maybe
Absolutely.
someone will come turn on a light, or just go in and go out. If the home is being watched for vacancy, but there's a neighbor that comes by, you can also call your local law enforcement. They will do drive-bys. They will make their presence more known to anyone who might be scoping out a property. Make sure that the mail is
Right.
um, kept at the post office, or have things sent to a PO box, so that nothing screams I'm vacant more than
Right.
a stuffed mailbox or the newspapers piling up on the driveway.
Right.
So just being involved in your parents' lives helps you know how to make things simpler when you're faced with, oh gosh, mom's got to leave the house, she's going into assisted living, or we just lost mom. It makes the number of decisions you have to make fewer and easier.
Great. Well, you kind of answered my last question, but you kind of gave some really great last tips. I love that of just paying attention to what's going on in the neighborhood, talking to a neighbor,
Mhm.
law enforcement doing kind of a well check on the property. Love those tips. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with as far as prevention or protection, or anything we didn't touch on?
I think one of the things that I've been excited to share are just the number of resources available. I think that people who are apprehensive to start thinking about these things and decisions, part of that weight is, well, I wouldn't even know where to go.
Right.
And I love telling people there's lots of places, there's lots of resources, and your family is one of them. Law enforcement is another. Senior centers, just Douglas County has Highlands Ranch Senior Center
Yeah.
coming on board here in July. Parker Senior Center, Castle Rock Senior Center, those places. In fact, Castle Rock Senior Center partners with the Sheriff's Department for, I'm sorry, I won't remember the name of their program, but call Castle Rock Senior Center if there's someone living alone, and to
Mm,
prevent isolation and feeling like they don't have anyone looking out for them. They'll partner you with someone from the Sheriff's Department to come by and visit and see you, and volunteers at the senior center will just swing by and make sure everyone's
yeah.
okay in
Love
the
that.
house. Um, Having your neighbors watch out for, I haven't seen Margaret's car go in and out of that
Mm,
driveway for a few days. Let's go knock on the door.
yeah.
My parents' mail lady, she knows everything about it. I have my parents' mail lady's number in my contacts list
Sure. There's
because
always a mail lady who's watching what's going on in the neighborhood. There's
right,
always one.
right. And realtors and support groups. There's so many out there. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, just logging online. There are so many resources. Aging Resources is one of the Douglas County resources where if you need help with food or you need help with transportation to the doctor's office, there's a lot of resources out there. And that's what I just hope to give people optimism and a feeling of, I've got resources. I can make my world better.
Yeah.
I can prepare myself and my family, and I there's places to go, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you were a wealth of knowledge today. Really appreciate you sharing this little tidbit and hopefully giving some great information and some great resources to our listeners. And I just really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much for giving me an outlet and an opportunity to share. I really appreciate you, Paige. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Bye bye.
That wraps up another inspiring episode of the Making Space for podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests and to you, our cherished listeners. Your journey to intentional living begins with each small step, and we're honored to be a part of it. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider liking, subscribing, and rating our podcast on your favorite platform. Before we part ways, a friendly reminder, if you're embarking on a move or seeking expert guidance in downsizing, remember A Move Handled with Care in Denver. With over 15 years of experience in senior and specialty move management, we're here to transform your transition into a seamless, stress-free experience. Visit amovehandledwithcare.com for more information, and let's continue making space for the life you've always wanted. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep making space for what matters most.